contend with additional obstacles such as cultural attitudes, sexism, and different career goals. Understanding this is a fundamental to develop an effective gender-responsive procurement program. There is also a limited number of women working within the supply chain or procurement who would serve as role models for others. There is a small number. This help to have different aspects of what is needed to be done. The first thing is to review the existing procurement legal frameworks. Here we are talking about the regulations that need to be clear about how and at which stage gender equality principles must be considered. The second one is to have affirmative actions. There is a big range of affirmative actions that can be conducted to adopt and increase participation of women owned businesses in the procurement and the public procurement. The third one is to encourage women and women-owned businesses to bid. This is our part as women entrepreneurs to take that will change a lot of things, because if we put in place the procurement legal framework, the affirmative actions, and we don't increase the number of women bidding, it will not serve for the purpose. By ensuring that women and men involved in business have equal opportunities to benefit from procurement process, we will support financial and economic empowerment, which in return contributes to social and economic development of our countries. One of the most challenges that we noticed in the women participating in the public procurement has been the big number of women-owned businesses in the informal sector. This is a big challenge. The biggest number of women in businesses are in the informal sector, and there is a big work to be done in that side to make sure that women are encouraged to formalize their businesses, to have the necessary documents that are needed in the public procurement, and to make sure that the management and financial operations are in the books. The second one is the entry door. How are they going to start participating in the procurement process? How is it possible to get the required experience on the document that are needed to participate in the public procurement? The third one is the challenge is the nature of business that women participate in the public procurement. Mostly, we see women participating in some of the activities such as cleaning, decoration, and so on. So this is not our wish today. This is not our future. We need the women in the construction sector to participate. We need the women in big projects to participate, and they're there. But how can we make sure they can also participate in such businesses? And I will end with the last one, which is critical, is the necessary capital to participate. Here with the access to capital, as we have been talking about it for a long time for women. The access to capital be able to participate in public procurement. We know that public procurement have their payment modalities that are not really helpful for a starting business, but how can we put in place the necessary support to make sure that that necessary capital is available for women, to make sure that they can also intend to participate in those big projects in the public procurement. The cultural challenge, I will not talk about it very much, but we know it, that it's very important. The lack of confidence for our women entrepreneurs to overcome, the support from the family that is needed to be the public procurement. There is a big stress going with it. There is the support of our families, our society is necessary. And encouraging our women entrepreneurs is something which is key to make sure that cultural challenge can be overcome. In the conclusion, there is some recommendation that we can, that has been proposed to make sure that women can start thinking about participating in the public procurement. There is the possibility to give them an incentives to interested men's owned businesses to joint effort to put in place joint ventures with women entrepreneurs, yep, and to give them the possibility to come into the game. Okay. So that's one interest point. The second one is to to have the possibility of to have a funds that can help women to have the necessary capital, the bid securities, the guarantees that are necessary to participate. Yeah. And the third one is a sensitization of our society on the culture change. And those three components are very that it's possible.
Great.
Can I end on this? Yep. And I'm available for additional call.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jeanne, for that. And I'm very grateful for you for setting that out. And when we put this event together, you know, and this event on adding gender to the tender, transparency, technology, and equity, and gender responsive procurement, we were very conscious that we're in a COVID-19 world, and the things have been changing as as a result. But let me begin. Thank you very much, Jeanne, for that, highlighting a number of key issues, and not least women going into non-traditional sectors. Nkechi Koko is the Senior Manager for Africa from the Open Contracting Partnership, and I'm delighted that she's able to join us today. We have a slide presentation. I've actually also got it open, but it's up to you, Nkechi, if you'd like to take control and take the screen and then share it from your end, or if you want me to run it, I can do it from mine, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I would just share from my end.
If you're able to go to your screen and show it, that's fine. If not, then I'm happy to show whichever is.
Yeah, you can go ahead and share from your end as well. I think that's
okay. Okay. Well, what I'll do then, let me just share. I'll just share the screen, and then yeah, let me just do this now. And in fact, you can see that's your presentation open. Yeah. So it's there. So if you just let me know, you've just got a few slides, and I'll just go through from here. So over to you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone from South Africa. Thank you so much, Ari, for organizing this session, and also Jeanne for being here. Very insightful points that you've made about your research. We go to the next slide. My name is Nkechi. I work with Open Contracting Partnership as Senior Manager for Africa. I'm based out of Cape Town, South Africa, and my role basically is helping to lead advocacy efforts, implementation supports, community building across Africa, and supporting our global community, all working to ensure that public contracting works for all, especially women. So again, I'm so excited to be here to see the conversations happening. And I really love the title of the session, I must say, Arif, adding gender to the tender. I think that is a very excellent way to put this. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to be sharing through, we can go to the next slide, to be sharing through how to make procurement more gender responsive. I'm talking a bit about a report we recently did at Open Contracting Partnership. So first of all, just sharing a bit about us. Open Contracting Partnership is a silos busting collaboration. For those who don't know us, all we are trying to do is to work to make public contracting more transparent across all through the entire chain of public contracting, from planning to tendering to award to contract and implementation. We have a basic aim to ensure that public contracting is fundamentally better, it's smarter, and it works for everyone, the citizens. We're in about 40 plus countries, and we're a non-profit organization. We're supporting businesses, civil society, media, government, all around to help, in implementing open contracting worldwide. Next slide. So a bit more about open contracting. So it's been estimated globally that governments around the world spend $13 trillion through contracts for both private and public companies, and that this is equivalent to at least 20% of the global GDP worldwide. So you can imagine how big the procurement market is, and the need and the intricacy of this conversation we have to have and include as regards to public contracting. Next slide. But then an interesting conversation is that, however, according to the Commonwealth Business Network, even with this huge market that we see about public contracting, you can see that although women purchase 80% of the world's goods, yet women-owned businesses are winning as low as 1% of procurement contracts from governments and businesses. So the question that this brings to mind, and I think every one of us listening correctly should be thinking about, is where is the equity? Where is the equity? Why is this so? And what can we do to change this or improve this, no matter how small and incremental it is, but to improve this as we go on a global scale and also in Africa as a whole. And especially in this time, in this emergency period where there's a lot of emergency procurement happening, how can we bridge this gender divide that we are seeing as regards public procurement? So in the next slide, we'll see that Open Contracting thought about this, and we partnered with Value for Women, and we set out to investigate what exactly are the challenges women face as regards to public procurement, and also what are the emerging practices and how can we, help to promote fairness and inclusion. Jeanne has talked a lot about most of these issues we are experiencing, so I'm just going to rush through some of the slides because there's a bit of similarity. But this goes to show that this issue is very intricate. It is very important that this is necessary for these conversations to happen. Else, we are facing a really huge wide gender gap in the coming years. So the first thing I want to talk about is the barrier. So the research we did identified some barriers that women face in public procurement. And these barriers include even from the government side and also from women-led businesses. So at the different side, from the women-led businesses and the government side, there are issues that we see as regards this lack of gender responsiveness in public procurement. And one of the key things, especially from the government side, is the fact that it's difficult to identify and define what women-led businesses is. And also, we see that women have reported negative perceptions about openness and fairness. Like Jeanne said, most of them are not interested in going through all of the long processes and the tedious processes that it takes to, pass through and win some of those major contracts that are out there. And we've also seen that there's a lack of finance. We've seen a lot of discriminatory practices happening out there. We've seen that women-led businesses, as a women lead far more smaller businesses, just like Jeanne said, than larger ones. We want to see women in construction. We want to see women taking up those big, huge slice of the pie as it comes to public contracting. But then we saw a lot of things as well. In the next slide, we will see that there are also gender norms, assigned roles, right? What women are perceived to be seen in the society, in our community, in the economy, right? And these gender norms and assigned roles, what this translates to is greater time restriction. I like this really key point that Jeanne talked about the responsibility of families in it. So a woman at home, a woman who is thinking about family or involved in so many conversations about in their community, how much time do they have allocated to go through all of the systems and processes in public procurement and in public contracting? How much time can they allocate to those kind of really tedious and time-intensive activities? So that's one of the issues we identified in it. And one very core thing we also saw is also corruption and bias. And it's very great to see that the UN, one of the key principles of the UN Global Compact is anti-corruption. And I really loved when I saw that one of the core principles they're looking at is that businesses should work against corruption in all its forms, including extortion and bribery. So that's a very important thing we see both at the business side and the government side. It's not the government alone. It takes two to tango, right? It's not just from one point. It takes a business most times and the government to interact mostly when it comes to corruption. So it's important that has to be looked into as an issue that is preventing women from being included in public contracting processes. And also, again, lack of timely information. So we can go on and on and on about problems that exist, but again, there are findings and recommendations on ways this can be improved. And I'll just run through a few of them. And one is, of course, thinking about defining what women-led businesses should be, what kind of data is needed. So that's why in open contracting, we're thinking about data, opening up the system, opening up the public contracting process. And one very key thing we also recommended is that government should make a commitment to gender equality, developing strategies for gender responsive procurement. For example, in South Africa, the government has this year announced that they've earmarked 40% of contracts to be awarded to women-owned businesses in South Africa. So the government has earmarked that 40% of contracts will be awarded to women, and has also requested all national departments in the country to monitor how many women have participated in public procurement processes. So great that these policies are going, that the government is listening and making, taking steps to close this gap rather. But it's critical and also important that as this is happening, government as well needs to publish this information out there. We need to be inclusive to publish issues. Let us know the people who are the women who are involved in this public procurement processes, publishing information from the planning to the tendering to the award to the contract phases, and demystifying it, humanizing the public contracting processes so people can see and know who to interact with, simplifying the application processes so it's less tedious and less intensive for women-owned businesses. And also other recommendations we'll see in the next slide is we have a few recommendations, and I would encourage everyone in the next slide, like we have a lot of the reports on the website, and we also have some recommendations. So feel free to go to our website in the next slide to read the reports and check out ways and recommendations that we have currently as regards this issue that we're discussing. So we have some blogs, reports on our platform, opencontracting.org. You can go in there and take a look at it. And finally, this is a very huge issue for us. Equity, inclusion in public procurement processes. It's a very huge issue for us at Open Contracting Partnership, gender responsiveness in public contracting process. And because of this, we've launched a call for proposal for research into the effectiveness and equity of public procurement in COVID-19. So we are looking at how we can improve the equity and effectiveness of public procurement. Very importantly, how we can build back better. So we're inviting researchers across the world who want to improve gender participation in procurement in their countries, please apply. If you go to our website again, you will see this information in there. The deadline is in January 2021. Inviting anyone who's interested rather to go and apply for it. So thank you so much, Ari. Thank you, Jeanne, as well.
Thank you so much. And I think that is a really powerful presentation. Let me just stop sharing there and just come back in to say that was brilliant, actually, Nkechi, and really highlighting the vital importance of procurement, you know, in all its dimensions, gender inclusive procurement, and just making that crucial link to COVID right now. We're almost time. So if we have any questions, you're very welcome to ask them now. We've just got maybe 2 or 3 minutes left. But if, well, we're just waiting. I see Gilbert's now with us. So we're almost at time, Gilbert, but maybe before we leave, if Gilbert is able to come in, you're very welcome to come in. I think I thought you were there a moment ago. If you're there, that's great. But while we're just waiting for a moment, we're almost at time. But let me just say something briefly about what happens next. So the Commonwealth Businesswomen Network actually announced its plan, working with the government of Kenya, to establish the Commonwealth Centre of Excellence for Women in Procurement in partnership with the President of Kenya, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. We announced this, in fact, at the Malta Heads of Government meeting, and we've been doing work since then. And the primary focus of our work has been to ensure that it's in the policy of the Commonwealth, which it now is. So the gender priorities of the Commonwealth make an explicit reference to procurement. That wasn't always the case. It's now in there, but we really need to ramp up the work we're doing in this area. So we've done some work already around this. What do we mean by a Commonwealth Centre of Excellence in Procurement? It really covers many of the points that Jeanne and Nkechi have talked about. Access to tenders. We work with you in development business to make sure that some of those government tenders are available, and also from the multilateral development banks. We also think that the crucial importance of capacity building in procurement is also very vital, and that was also touched upon this morning as well in the remarks just made. But we also feel that what is also important is what we're doing today, which is advocacy and engagement, and actually putting the word out there so powerfully as Jeanne has done, highlighting the work that they're doing in Rwanda, which of course is hosting the Heads of Government meeting in a few months' time in June next year, and Nkechi as well in the work that you're doing, not least through the call. And we certainly look forward to working with both of you from here moving forward. I see Gilbert now with us. Gilbert, we're actually just over time, but since you were, I know you're a bit late coming in on the panel, I'm just inviting you to just be maybe for just a couple of minutes, because we're actually going to run into another session immediately. But very, very pleased to have you with us, and so we're over to you to say something briefly to us about the work that you're doing in this area, working with the Open Contracting Partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and apologies for my technology challenges. So just to say that last year we did a study which was looking at women participation in public procurement. And that study, we identified 4 main areas or issues that affect their participation. One was in respect to legal and policy constraints. This, for example, issues like bid security, being high and not being affordable by women. The other one was access to information. Women don't access the same information easily as other gender would do, given the challenges and social-cultural contexts of the continent. So this study, I forgot to mention, that was done in Kenya, Malawi, and Nigeria. The third issue is on capacity. Women have, we found they have logistical, financial, equipment, and technological challenges that would make them effective to effectively compete for public tenders. And then finally, there were issues of mistreatment around delayed payment, bureaucracy of procedures, sexual harassment, all of which combine to make it unattractive for women to do business. Now, one of the things that we have done using these results is to engage the 6 East Africa procurement authorities.
Hmm.
And at the forum last year, they committed to promote inclusive procurement, particularly focusing on women, people with disabilities, and youth. The second one was on the issue of affirmative action. And we see that in Uganda, we did advocacy, and the draft procurement bill that was passed has these elements. It's not yet signed by the president, but we hope that it shall. Now, as we have learned from other work before, political will and these commitments that have been expressed is one thing, but then capacity to actualize it is another. So we are discussing with the Open Contracting Partnership to work with procurement authorities in the region to address issues of knowledge, to work out tools, and also capacities to make sure that we build on these political commitments that have been made. Thank you once again, and apologies for being challenged to join the meeting.
Gilbert, you've really made up in great measure with coming in with those very specific points that you've made, and I think what clearly comes across from Gilbert, your remarks, and Nkechi, and also from Jeanne, is that the procurement train for women has left the station. It's moving, and it's being led by Africa. That's the message I get from this morning. And this is extremely important because our eyes turn to President Kagame hosting the heads of government meeting in June and driving forward that not just for Africa, but for the Commonwealth, whether it's the UK or India or Fiji, across our Commonwealth, these problems are common and the solutions are also common, which is why I'm very pleased to announce that today that on our digital platform, we're going to be creating a collaborative space open to anyone, but led by the people that you have heard from today. We hope that will be working with us so that we can begin to engage particularly governments, particularly the private sector, and particularly women themselves to make the world a more gender inclusive space for women-owned businesses and in procurement in particular.